The United States recently announced a new national security strategy, stating the era of upholding world order is over, though without an official proclamation. And at the same time, they announced that they would focus as much as possible on containing China. Today, let's take a closer look at this. Let's find out. On December 5th, United States time, the Trump administration released the National Security Strategy Report, a comprehensive guide on diplomacy, economy, and military. Its significance comes from being led and authored by the White House. This is because it will serve as the top-level document that acts as a compass for the Trump administration's foreign and security policies over the next 4 years. Just by looking at this document, you can get a general idea of the direction the United States will take in the future. However, there are often many shocking things here. The most notable part here is that it is based on the term America First. By prioritizing America first, it centers competition with China and calls for allies to take on more defense responsibilities. The top priority of the United States strategy toward Asia was to deter military conflict over Taiwan. Regarding the tense situation in Taiwan, it was stated that the highest priority is for the United States to maintain military superiority to deter conflict over Taiwan. Continuing previous United States policies, it reaffirmed its commitment to defending Taiwan and prioritized containing China. The report mentioned China 19 times, always about the need to keep it in check. What's important is that it's not about using all of America's assets to deter a conflict over Taiwan. It was written that South Korea and Japan should expand their share in deterring a conflict over Taiwan. It also stated that South Korea and Japan should be urged to increase their defense budgets, focusing on building the capabilities needed to contain China and protect the First Island chain. It also said they should contribute more to collective defense. Collective defense is a security concept based on the principle that if one member of an alliance is attacked, all members respond together. NATO is based exactly on this principle. Given what's written, if Taiwan is invaded, will the United States directly pressure South Korea to join the war? The possibility has grown, making the First Island chain important. Before the National Security Strategy Report, there were rumors the United States might retreat to the Second Island chain, similar to the Atchison Line. This report has ended that debate. The United States is focusing on defending the maritime line, linking southern Kyushu, Okinawa, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Another key point was also noted. What if a potential adversary imposes a toll system on one of the world's most important maritime trade routes? Or even worse, closes off that sea route at will? Will it continue? This can make it possible and is timely. And I wrote this while looking at the South China Sea. Regarding the South China Sea, strong cooperation with all countries, including Japan, is necessary and was emphasized. At the same time, it declares America first. What about in this report? America no longer solely upholds the order of victory like Atlas. Now it stands with many wealthy, developed allies. It was written that these countries should take primary responsibility for their own regions and contribute much more to collective defense. In particular, as a means to achieve America first, the Trump administration put economic diplomacy centered on reciprocal tariffs, which was its core policy and weapon at the forefront. It also formalized the expansion of influence in Central and South America. Notably, North Korea wasn't mentioned at all in this report. In Trump's first term, North Korea appeared 17 times in the National Security Strategy Report, but this time, it wasn't mentioned at all. Previously, North Korea's denuclearization policy was clear, but this time, North Korea wasn't mentioned at all. Many media outlets note the United States now prioritizes containing China over focusing on North Korea. Most of the Asia section in the National Security Strategy Report focused on China. The report also included notable criticisms of Europe, particularly its immigration policies. They stated they would back parties with anti-immigration policies. If you check the current report, it stated that due to Europe's immigration policies, Europe is changing to the point where it is no longer recognizable, and that these immigration policies are damaging the national identities of European countries. The United States said it would back patriotic parties in Europe that share its values to avoid a future where some NATO members have more non-Europeans than Europeans. This National Security Strategy Report mainly criticized European countries in the Enhancing Europe's Greatness section. According to a report by the New York Times, the National Security Strategy Report doesn't name specific parties, but its mention of patriotic European parties likely refers to new, strongly right-wing groups like Reform United Kingdom Party or Alternative for Germany. Brand Benifei, chairman of the European Parliament's Delegation for Relations with the United States, criticized the United States, calling the report's extreme and shocking language absolutely unacceptable. The United States has started gradually reducing its involvement in Europe. Shortly after the National Security Strategy Report was released, the United States demanded Europe assume most of NATO's conventional defense by 2027. A Reuters report citing United States officials says the Department of Defense shared this policy at a meeting with a European delegation in Washington, District of Columbia. The United States Department of Defense warned that if Europe fails to meet the deadline by 2027, the United States may withdraw from certain defense coordination systems within NATO, such as military planning and force adjustments. In effect, the United States has essentially notified Europe that it should now take responsibility for its own defense. Although Europe is currently rearming, the reality is not like a game, so it is expected to take some time before the rearmament is fully completed. Because of this, the European side believes that it is virtually impossible to fully handle conventional defense by 2027. America's determination is clear. If the main operator of conventional forces shifts from the United States to Europe, there are also predictions that there will be major changes in the alliance order that the United States has led. And this can be seen as a symbolic event showing that the United States has fully entered into isolationism. In fact, in every aspect, the United States has stated that its allies need to increase their defense spending, and in all areas, it has emphasized expanding the roles and responsibilities of its allies. Even in the Asia-Pacific region, the United States will build forces to deter aggression along the first island chain, but cannot and should not do this alone. Allies are urged to boost spending and take concrete steps for collective defense. Korea is also briefly mentioned. United States diplomacy should urge first island chain allies and partners to expand access to United States military facilities, boost defense spending, and prioritize strengthening deterrence. So it seems likely that during the Trump administration, United States allies, including Korea, will be under greater pressure to increase their defense spending, doesn't it? What does President Trump think about this National Defense Strategy report? He called it a roadmap to keep the United States the most successful nation in history and a global stronghold of freedom. He also emphasized that in the coming years, the United States will strengthen its national power on multiple fronts to make the country safer, wealthier, freer, greater, and stronger than ever before. The new United States national security strategy is viewed as a major shift disrupting the global power structure upheld since World War II. The United States announcing it will stop acting as the world's police signals a shift in the international order's center of gravity. This decision is not just rhetoric, but can be seen as a signal that the global power landscape is entering a period of polarization. With the era of the United States managing all regions coming to an end, it is expected that regional hegemonic competition will unfold in earnest. United States, China tensions are rising in the Pacific as they balance each other, while the United States, India, and Australia are strengthening their alliance in the Indian Ocean to counter China's maritime dominance. After the declaration that the United States will no longer take responsibility for Europe's security, Europe now faces the task of building its own defense capabilities and is entering a stage of considering an independent military bloc centered on Germany and France. The world is moving away from an era where a single order dominated all regions and is shifting to a system where each area operates as a separate sphere of influence. The United States, unable to manage all areas simultaneously, has prioritized containing China and assigned allies more responsibility for their own regions. Is it likely that these changes will lead to the fragmentation of maritime hegemony? The United States, Japan, and Korea are forming an alliance to contain China's military in the Western Pacific, while India is strengthening a security system in the Indian Ocean to counter China's maritime Silk Road. A self-defense group is forming in European waters to counter Russia. With the United States military's global network easing, concerns grow that regional conflicts may rise and a new era of great power competition could come sooner. International relations will now involve complex power struggles as regional interests clash and major powers seek influence. The world may enter a very different phase from its previous stability. How do you think the world will change in the future? I'm curious about your thoughts as well, so please leave them in the comments. That's the end of the video. Thank you.